different than what we usually do at the Bullpen at Studio G. So this time it's here, and it's kind of a little more open, a little more informal, and it's a little funner, I think, to do it here this time. So, so we're going to welcome Nevena, Christi, and Elizabeth Shoddy. They're representing Rocketbuster booths, and as you can see, I'm standing in the way of all these beautiful masterpieces up here. They have a lot to show, and she's going to tell us about her journey today and all their experience. Nevena has studied in LA and New York City, and she's worked with
Tiffany's, Jewelry People, where I was doing plates and scarves, Adrian Benedini, where I was doing evening wear, and 12 years as design director at Nicole Miller New York Fashion House. And then I hired a guy to make boots for a fashion show, and fell madly in love in 2 days. And we worked together on a runway show and on a bunch of crazy boots, and then we were dating cross country for 2.5 years, and then he said, honey, we moved to Texas. And I said, what on earth am I going to do in Texas? And he's a photographer, and he had gotten this boot company. He traded it for an old Cadillac in a bar one night. He woke up with a boot company, and the funny thing is that Marty collects outer space, and he collects cowboy. He collects vintage boots. And he also shot all the catalogs for all the big boot companies, like Luke Casey and Tony Lama and Acme and all these. So they'd show up with these great vintage boots, and he'd be like, are you making those? No, we just want you to shoot them for the cover of the catalog. He's like, well, why aren't you making them? Oh, those are too hard. So the second he got a boot company, he said, well, I'm going to make those vintage boots. So Marty cold calls Roy Rogers, who then says, my feet have changed as I got older, and I need someone to remake all my favorite boots for me. Next thing you know, he's going gangbusters. But when I met him, things had slowed down a bit. So I moved in '97 to El Paso. I found out that the guy Marty had hired to run the company had ketchup in every drawer, especially the ones with paperwork. Like, who does that? That there was drawers full of not deposited payroll tax checks. There was, and I literally said, okay, I will dump my entire savings. This is the part that could have been like one of those horrible daytime television movies where I dump my entire savings into an almost bankrupt company because I don't want to fess up to my friends in New York that it's not looking quite as cherry as I thought. So, and I just kicked everyone out and I started cleaning. And I said, you know what, once I'm organized, I can think straight and I can see what I'm going to do. And I didn't have a problem with boot making because I'm one of those people, like, get over yourself. Sewing a men's double-breasted jacket with a notch collar is much harder than making a pair of boots any day of the week, in my opinion. It's just sewing. It's just paying attention to the measurements. It's just measuring the customer. You know, I was convinced that I could change all that and just do it the way that made sense to me, judging by what I had learned in school and what I knew about construction and sewing. And of course, the macho world that we live in El Paso, and all these old guys are like, you can't do it like that. I'm like, I can, and I'm not going to, cut my pattern out of cardboard. I'm going to draw it on tracing paper to the customer specs, and then I'm going to Xerox it so we have exact new pattern for each boot we make, so it fits the customer perfectly. And they're like, oh, well, I guess that'll work. So out to the burn pile and all the cardboard patterns. And then I sort of realized that these stores that my husband had sold owed us a ton of money, and I would spend half my day being a bill collector and calling and saying, where's our money? Because in the garment industry, you're supposed to give them a 30-day or a 60-day, yet you always have to call to get it. Yet I would make a single pair of boots for someone, and I would get a gourmet cupcake thank you package from Beverly Hills, and I'm like, well, gee, who do I want to be my customer? That lady that spent a ton of money, is totally happy and really appreciates what you got, or the people that are doubling the price of my product, not doing any work, and then not paying me. So it was very easy for me to say, I'm not doing wholesale anymore. As an artist, I want to do one-of-a-kinds. And so the horror show that was the crying every other day, sometimes 3 times in one day, you know, everybody goes through that stage, but it's the creative thinkers that are going to see through it and see the things that are working, acknowledge what works, and do that. And I am a positive person. I have to thank my mom for that. But it was hard, but we have reached a point now where we run a very unconventional business. I don't know how many of you saw my TED Talk, but the idea of it's not necessarily what you went to school for, but it's what you're passionate about, and to take your passion and don't give yourself any rules. Like, there's rules about how boot companies are supposed to be run. Every one of the guys that was already an employee when I moved had these ideas. This is the way it's supposed to work. This is the way you're supposed to cut a pattern. This is the way you're supposed to do this. Well, who's enforcing these rules? There's no police force that tells you how you have to be a graphic designer, how you have to, you know, do these things. And I think sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to sort of break all those rules and just say, okay, this is what we do now. This is who we are. I didn't realize I could go home at 4:30 at one point in my career just because I put it on the phone machine. The message said, we will be here from 8 a.m. to 4:30. I needed to pick up my son at 4:45. But it was almost like I didn't have permission until I recorded it on the machine. I gave myself permission. Now I stay late again, but he's older, so that's okay. But we don't do anything the normal way. We don't do sales the normal way. And now we've reached a point where people find us. And, you know, my husband says, why are you up till this hour? Why are you working on this crazy project? We just shipped a boot for Legacy Tractors that's up to here. It has cows and fainting goats. I mean, did I even know what a fainting goat was? And she's like, well, our tractors come in orange and blue and red, and I want to be sitting on the tractor waving. And I'm like, well, a tractor is shaped like this. And so then I'm telling her, okay, do you have a barn? Does it have like one of those hay areas up high? Can you like go up there and have someone drive the tractor so we can get the tractor sort of long? Because boot's shaped like this. And so next thing you know, I've got the customer doing that so she can send us these pictures so we could do this crazy tractor and goats and cows. And we basically absolutely hated the damn thing. Hated it. And yeah, we fit it all on there, but I wasn't loving it. It had the Legacy Tractor, and then
tire treads.
Yeah, well, the foot had the tractor tread and a steer. So it had a long horn with the tractor tread, and it was this, she wanted caramel color on the foot. And so it's sitting in my office for forever, and my assistant keeps saying, when are you going to finish that? I just don't know what I want to do to it yet. And then, you know, you wait, and you wait sometimes. You wait for that divine inspiration, and so we ended up antiquing it with chocolate on top of the saddle, which did this really cool thing and changed the color. Suddenly nothing clashed with the bright orange tractor anymore, and then we decided to put sparkle on the tread on the foot, and that just, I don't know, it sounds hideous, but it really worked. Like, we weren't going to send it until we liked it, and so yesterday she's all over my phone, oh my God, I love my boots. And we decided, since they were late, and because it was so hard to do, that we would give her some tassels. That's like our new thing. So we clipped some colored tassels on the sides, and we said, if you're going to have the over-the-top tractor boot, you might as well just go big or go home. And we sent it to her, and she's in love with them. And she's like, I'm already planning my next pair. Oh my God. please, maybe choose something out of what we make. But the people get so excited that they become family. And we're shipping all over, and people are paying between $1,000 to $8,000 for a pair of boots. And that's because, you know, if you think about it, like, you go to a gallery, and how much is a piece of art? Well, you have to do the same thing twice. And we were in Houston at this enormous party, and my assistant and I were both wearing boots, and as we walked through the room, we started collecting customers that we didn't even know lived in Houston. Hey, I'm wearing my boots. By the end of the night, we had a posse. We looked so cool. And Dee Dee says to me, there are only 2 looks we're getting from people. We're either getting the, oh my God, you guys look great, I want to hang out with you, or who's that? and it was so funny. She said there's like nothing in between. But everybody that had boots felt really special, and it's part of that creating a family. And I also, as far as El Paso, I don't think we could have done that anywhere else. I mean, our the shop, Elizabeth's going to get to the picture of the front of the building. My husband bought what was an abandoned warehouse building in the scummy part of downtown. And when I moved here, there was a dirt road out front. There was dirt next to the building with dumpsters and scary guys. I had this little teeny dog, and I'd leave at night, and I'd look at our dog, and I'd say, Mach, I just don't think you can defend me if anything happens. Let's just hope. And there were no lights. It was pitch black. And now they do the farmer's market on our street. It's just, but small towns, you can do that. Small towns, there are areas that are going to end up being the height. You know, I know you guys are saying you want to go, like, get some experience in the big city, but what you have to realize, I would get the experience, I'd get the street smarts, but then I would head for any small town. You can not only get a place in the center, in what's going to be the coolest area, but you can get people to help you. I mean, we did a facade grant on our building with help from the city to sandblast our building, take it back to the original brick, to build a metal eyelid. I mean, they love us. I make jokes about how we have this sort of relationship with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, where like they call every 5 minutes to tell us, yeah, this is our building now. And I designed these doors. Now, my husband said, what on earth are you going to spend that much money for? Because I needed a shelf for boots. I was running out of space. I needed one more shelf. We were taking out a 1930s garage door that had no insulation. It was just sand and heat and cold, and you'd have to hit it with a sledgehammer and then hit the other side and then do that until you got the door. I mean, I wouldn't open that thing. We would try to cram anything through this door to not open the garage door. So the fact that I designed these doors that are shelves that have aircraft insulation in them that are steel that I can open with 2 fingers. And it's become the photo op of downtown. So people come and they take this picture, and then I get 100 new followers on Instagram. And it's Christmas cards for people. It's an amazing piece of advertising. As far as branding goes, I have a friend that does hand sign painting. Well, actually, he wasn't my friend. He knows everyone I know. And I saw on his Instagram, because I followed him, because all my friends are friends with him, and I saw he was in Texas. And I'm like, hey, Dave, you were in Texas. Are you coming back through Texas? I'm friends with everyone you know. He's like, yeah, I realize that we know everyone, but we've never met. I said, yeah, I think you need boots, and I think you should come and paint all over the inside of my building. So he came and he branded the inside of our building, so any picture taken includes Rocketbuster. So it says, everything. We have Rocketbus stars over our wall of fame. We have Rocketbuster. We have everywhere we could put our name, we put our name inside the building. And it looks old school, and it looks cool. But all of these things, my husband's like, I didn't realize you were thinking of all that at once. But it was. If you're going to do the facade grant, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And people will send a picture to their friends more than they will write, oh, you've got to go to this place, because how are they going to describe it? So we also have a thing for the graphic designers, and because my husband's a photographer, it's like, don't print it unless you think someone's going to hang it on the fridge. Because if they're not going to keep it, why are you even spending the money? Like, why, everything you print, from a postcard to a business card, should be something someone wants to keep. Like, graphically, why do they want to keep it? And we've been doing that for a long time. We even did a card. Do you guys know what augmented reality is? This is an augmented reality card. If you download this app, these boots will jump off the page, sing, dance, and do all sorts of stuff, just like Help Me, Obi-Wan, coming out of R2-D2. I mean, it's really cool, but nobody throws this card away. or they'll give it to somebody else, and that's kind of cool. Stickers, very important too. Everybody does that, but we really try, and what I did for my employees, in a lot of places, there's tons of employees, but I did 2 different kinds of cards for my employees. I did the fun 3D card, that's for fun people, when you meet fun people. Then I did the classy one for, you know, when you meet more sophisticated people who don't know what augmented reality is. And then we just put a blank on the back. That way, no matter who's working, they can put whatever they want on the card, and they can give it to the person and still have their card. But this is basically, it's a postcard. We printed these business cards on a postcard, and we just had them cut them in half. But we got 2 different art, all in our same postcard run while we were doing that. And it's, what I want to do for the city in El Paso is, I'm trying to create a VIP box, because, you know, have you ever clicked on one of those things at the airport and really ended up somewhere weird? We did that once at the hotel, and we had too much luggage to go back. And we're like, why would they let them put it at the airport if it's scary? But, so we have, you know, and just like you guys do here, we have the Plaza Theater, we've got UTEP on Haskins, you know, we've got the Convention Center, all these hotels that they're building. So there's all these different people coming to town for different reasons. So I said to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, what are you giving them? They're like, what? I'm like, coming from New York, and like, what are you giving them? What are you giving them to say this is our town? And nothing. They're not giving them anything. They're giving them absolutely no guidance of where to go and what to do. And I have a feeling that even if they did, they'd do it by advertising, so it would be all about the money, not about, we want you to go home saying, that's the coolest town I've ever been to in my life. So, because we get a lot of VIPs, like when Arnold Schwarzenegger came to our office, he was like, we were making his boots, he wanted to see them in the process and watch us like make stuff. And he dropped in, and I would have loved to have handed him our little VIP box, which is going to be, see, and I'm going to do it with Marty, my husband. I figure we'll go to each of our favorite places. He'll take what he considers like 3 great shots that says their business, like whether it's the food or the gift shop or the whatever experience. We'll ask him to pick one, and we'll do a little, have them write a little description of their business and do it as a stamped postcard. And so they'll get all these postcards with the keychain, with the key to the city and the VIP guest, and they'll have all these stamped postcards that are also informative, but if they want to, they'd pop in the mail to somebody and give it to the hotel desk, because they'll mail stuff. They don't actually have to find a mailbox anymore. But it's just all that sort of, you know, this is your town, you can do what you want. You know, this is our business, we can do what we want. And I think sometimes people don't think about that. We get caught up in the everyday of what we have to do. Yes, we have to pay our taxes, and yes, we have to pay our electric bill and our water bill and stuff, and you know, we got to watch out that we don't park in the wrong place. But other than that, if it's your business, you can do whatever you want. And I think as soon as we accept that, we have a lot more fun, and the customers do too. So it's there's a lot of different plans that can be put into work with that philosophy. I tell everybody my favorite TED Talk of the year is this Dan Rosgaard. And he's the guy that decided that, and he's great to watch because he's so excited about everything. But he said, oh, well, he was working in China and that all the smog in China, and he decided that he would invent a smog vacuum cleaner. And he built these beautiful sculptures, a little taller than this glass enclosure here. And he put them in parks, and what they do is they not only look like a great sculpture, but they clean the air, and all the carbon and everything they take in to clean the air gets compressed and turned into modern diamonds, and they sell the diamond rings online to build more smog vacuums. And you're like, this guy rocks! And I'm following him on Instagram, and he's doing it in India, and he's doing it here, and he invented a mini one for bicycles. Because when I was in China, I was at Guangzhou Airport, and everybody that came in was wearing a mask because the air outside was green.
Yep.
And that's all the dollar store, guys. So next time you're at a dollar store, think about that. That's all that plastic junk they're making at the dollar store that's turned in the air over there. Great. But thankfully, there's this guy with this crazy mind that figured out how to do something good and make it pay for itself. And he also had this great idea that when they, you know those glow-in-the-dark stars on the sky that you put on the ceilings? Well, what do they do with the other pieces? They're cutting out stars. So he decided to ask them for all the extras. And he built Starry Night glow-in-the-dark bike path in Amsterdam out of leftover stars. And it glows in the dark. And I'm like, you know, it's more thinkers like that that we need. And it's, as far as business is concerned, like when you're on that path, when everything sucks so bad, you know, you've really gotta say, like, in a happy way, in a positive way, okay, what good, how can I expand the good stuff that's actually happening? And how can I have more fun doing it? Because that's a really important part. Because you can't work late unless you're having a good time. That's why we have a popcorn machine, so. I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, Elizabeth will keep running through the slides. If you have any questions or hurdles. Exciting news, we were just put into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. And that's really exciting because, you know, even I watch Shark Tank and wonder, because I have an idea for, see, when I worked at Nicole Miller, she had the tie line. So no matter how hard the collection or the dress line was going, there was always that tie line to sort of pay the bills, keep the lights on, do stuff that, you know, just extra money. And we have some ideas for diversification, but people are always like, do you want to grow your business? Absolutely not. No. I want to reach more people. I don't want the deadlines to ever go more than 6 to 8 months, but I want to do some rock stars. I want to do like thigh-high monster dinosaur boots. I don't care, but I want to keep the business small. So I need to learn to diversify in other ways. Maybe with the copyrights we have on all of our art, maybe, who knows. But there's always a way. But the important thing to remember is, will this just cause you more work and make you miserable, or will you have fun doing it? Because sometimes people just walk themselves into a big conglomerate of a corner and they're not really happy. So I think it's important to keep happiness as a goal. And that's it.
You guys have questions for Nevena and Elizabeth? I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe you already talked about this, but did Ozzy come through already?
No, actually, they got that weather on whatever day that was. They got stuck and they couldn't shoot, and so then they ended up at White Sands on the next day, which was yesterday. So all we did is we were able to give them all of our favorite restaurant recommendations. So I guess I'll get to hear today on my phone if they went to eat anywhere. But it's okay because Annie will come back. But I just wanted to know if it was really as wacky as anything. But yeah, it's funny. We've done 5 sizzle reels for reality shows with everyone from original that does Deadliest Catch to, and my people don't get excited about TV anymore. They're just like, oh.
Good picture.
Oh yeah. But it's just like, you know, they say you always have to put the question in the phrase. We just talk like that now. Just put the question right in the phrase. Yes.
After being at the store and meeting your team, I'm wondering, how did you build your team from when it was just you and Marty to, like, I mean, you're obviously family.
I used to be miserable. All those guys, like, that I talk about that, like, were so set in their ways, and then some of them were alcoholics, and, you know, I just, like, walked in. I was used to New York. If you show up late, someone will be sitting in your seat when you get there the next day, and your job's gone. But no, people would just disappear, not call, not say anything. You know, my team, I started, you know, when I started to take over my life and say, this is how my life's going to work. These are the people I want. You know, it started with friends. It started with artists. It was like, hey, you want to come hang out? Why was I asking them? Because I needed someone to hang out with that wasn't going to drive me crazy. And then they started learning stuff, and then they really liked it. And then I'm like, okay, wait, there's a whole other pool. One of my favorite employees of all time lives in Austin now. His name's Colton. He was my favorite waiter at the place we would go eat breakfast. And I had to go to Vegas for 10 days for the big rodeo show, and I didn't have anyone to answer the phone. And I was like, that guy can really talk to people. And Marty said, I heard that restaurant just closed. It's going to become a new restaurant. He's probably looking for a job. So Colton comes in to interview, and he's charming, knows how to talk to people. I'm like, great, do you know how to run charges? Oh yeah, I did the bank deposits and everything at my old job, no problem. And then he's like, don't you want to see my portfolio? And I was like, what? He's like, oh yeah, I'm a comic book illustrator. I'm like, what? And next thing you know, we were like the dynamic duo. He could draw any gun, he could draw a helicopter, he could draw a guy jumping down foreshortening. Like, it was great. Anything I couldn't draw, he could draw. You know, oh, we need a cowboy on a bucking steer as seen from the ground. Oh, no problem, I got that. It was great. And it turns out, like, I'm stealing from all the restaurants, it's terrible. Diana, who I called our Amazon princess, metals major from Utah, she just wanted to come hang out because she liked the idea of doing stuff with her hands. And that's the thing, like with me, like I don't care if it's wood. I mean, Elizabeth and I built a bookcase in Cloudcraft. Like, I don't care what it is. I just like to make stuff. I will never have a good manicure. I mean, it's, you know, and it's, if you like to make stuff, last night the owner, Cassandra, the owner of Sabretooth, one of my favorite restaurants in El Paso, she went to school because she did this entrepreneurs thing with me. She went to school for music and fashion design, and she has a restaurant. And she said, you know, we were talking, I said, where'd you go to fashion school? And she said she went at NMSU. And I said, oh, really? You know, what were you doing? Were you doing pattern making? Were you doing draping? And she's like, I was doing it all. You know, I still think I should have had a mannequin. I should have kept my mannequin. I said, well, I want one. And so we start talking about fashion. Next thing you know, she wants to come by the shop and volunteer during the day and learn how to work with leather. I'm like, that's how it happens. I mean, people volunteer at our shop. We get interns from all over because they're going to have a good time. You know, they're going to learn stuff. It's like play school for grown-ups. I was going to say, if you want to, you know, hang out anytime. Yeah.
I do.
Even if it's just for a political photo shoot.
Absolutely.
But it's, you know, that's all part of it. That's all part of it. People come from anywhere.
Can you kind of like go through like the boots that are on display right now, you know?
Oh, where they came from, kind of deal?
And, you know, how the price increases.
The origin story.
The origin story, there you go.
Okay. Baker from Dallas. You know, he said, I want a wingtip. And I said, the My Three Sons shoes, because I remember the beginning of that television show, and I had like a dancing shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did this for him. And this is on, let's see, I don't know, our boots, like, I didn't bring the lower end, I brought the crazy stuff. This one's about $1,700. But like I was telling a guy on the phone this morning, because a store is not going to double my price, when somebody buys a $1,700 pair of boots, they're getting the best leather you can buy. Nobody's marking it up 50%. So all this distressed stuff that you see everywhere, it's what's called a split leather. So this is the leather on top that they've polished and tanned and stained. Then a split leather is actually suede that's been painted and buffed. So it's not really the top layer of the leather. So when you buy leather, I felt like, first time I went to buy leather, I felt like a girl at a mechanic. Because there was this little piece of leather, and the guy told me it was 9 square feet. And I called my husband on the phone, and I said, there ain't no way this is 9 square feet. I said, I don't know what to do. These people are ripping us off. And he said, no, they just stick the cow on a grid, and you pay for all the air. I'm like, what? So the cow's legs are over here and down there, and they're just going to grid it? I'm like, well, let me chop the legs off, and then, you know, that's 6 square feet if it's anything. Because I'm thinking of it like tiles on a floor, you know, and no. So you know, when they tell you that a piece of kangaroo leather is, you know, $16.99 a square foot, and suddenly that little teeny piece is considered 9 feet, that's a lot of leather. And if you need 6 colors on the boot, and it just all starts to add up. So like this boot is all kangaroo and calf. These are kangaroos from Australia that have then moved to Italy for tanning. Because the Australian kangaroo just doesn't look so good, it looks painted. But these are all individual little pieces. So, and everything is skived, which is shaved with these really sharp prison shank knives that we have at work. Just learning how to sharpen one of those makes you such a badass. You're like, oh, I'm sharpening my shank. You know, but, so this one's great. This was a statement about when I first moved to El Paso. And it was, well, this particular one not, but I had done a Day of the Dead boot for my husband. And the boys were sort of, they had the bottle and the knife and all the that, and the girls had like love and music. And sort of the good people. That one is, I didn't know we were going to be asked this question. That's $3,600 at that height. This is all carved. This is another one. It doesn't have a tag on it, but I know it's up there. But this is all individually carved and stained, each piece. And so if I did someone with a larger leg, I would redo the pattern, because that's how OCD I am, that it should all match up perfectly, even if you have a really big leg. And if you want a monogram in there, this is another example of obsessiveness, because the boot top's bigger than the ankle, so the pattern's shaped like that, yet I made it match on the side. Which meant I had to draw the pattern, then put it in the computer, and then warp it to the exact measurement to the customer in perspective, hoping that these squares didn't look too much bigger than these squares. So that's fun. And then, of course, a lady asked me to do it in a knee-high with the same pattern on the foot. And we pulled that off, but it was not fun. This one is another one. We decided to do a desert sunset. Yeah, that one's $3,200 also. And this is a hand-stacked leather heel, and each boot has 100 lemonwood pegs, all by hand, in the sole. So there's no plastic, there's no nails, there's nothing modern. I was watching a Luke Casey video the other day at this place I was at, and they have all these machines to do all this stuff that we have this tool, which is basically a sharpened screwdriver. It's called the Punisher. And what the Punisher does is it puts these little dents in between each thread. And it's basically a rain gutter, so when moisture hits, it doesn't go into the sole, it goes off the edge. Oh, wow. With the Punisher. This boot we fondly refer to as the Chandelier. Now, I don't know, it just whenever, sometimes you just really need to overdo stuff, so we wanted to make a boot that was just the Chandelier. It just had like a jillion Austrian crystals, and ooh, can we even put them in the heel? You know, what else can we do? We just recently added this, and it was really funny because my friend Val, she's a ex-professional ice skater, and she lives in New York, and she's in a rock band, and she got invited to the Grammys, and she's like, what am I going to wear? I said, Val, prom rules apply. Don't do your hair how you would never normally do it. You will hate yourself later. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, we're not 20, we're not models, so you could be just another tastefully dressed person at the event. Or you could give people a reason to talk to you. So I told her, I said, just wear any black dress, leave your messy blonde hair down to here, and wear these boots. Well, all night, celebrities were walking up to her saying, hey, boots. They got invited to every after party. She had an absolute blast. She kept taking them off and letting people try them on. And it was just really great. And then her date bought her the boots. So we didn't tell her, well, we didn't tell the date that they were like 2 sizes too big and she had big cushions in them. We just sort of did a trade out when he wasn't around. And so she has her own pair that fit now, and my sample pair since has been sold, and this is the new sample pair. But the Chandelier boot, it's a good boot. It's a good boot for parties. What's the price? Oh, the Chandelier boot's in the 5 range, I believe. Dun, 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 dun. Oh no, 40-23. Sorry, not in the 5 range. Guess there's no, like your chandelier. Yeah. And this is a 2. This is hand-carved tattoos and super soft tooling leather to look vintage. And this, I did a guitar for Fender Custom Shop, and after we finished the guitar and they auctioned it off, I said I want to do the ultimate rock and roll boot. So we did 2 guitars, and I did some fancy pattern making because there's no closure on this boot. It just goes all the way around. And I love like when these guys from Leon that like want to knock off our boots. That's our new t-shirt, Rocketbuster. Let them try. Like, y'all have fun with that, because you're not going to put as much work into it. So what we did is we did this whole tricky thing where it's all hidden under the guitar. But it's very hard to finish off the guitar to actually sew it down. But this is Eddie Cochran's guitar with music from Summertime Blues. So this is Gonna Raise a Fuss and Gonna Raise a Holler. And then the other boot has a Stratocaster on it. And that, I think, is Buddy Holly's Strat, and it's red. So there's 2 famous guitars, and this was. And the first time I wore these, I was trying to go to dinner with some people at Caesar's Palace, and as I'm walking across, I kept having to stop and have my picture taken with like different tourists wearing the boots. And I was like late for dinner, but it was, I'm like, I guess they're good. And this is a new one. This is the Geisha. And this one, I did it without a seam, which is, you know, another thing I do just to mess with people. So this is just like one piece, and the only seam is down here on the inside. But for years I wanted to do this, and I had sketches and a file on my desktop, and I just wanted the whole boot to be patterned with just a little bit of why all that pattern's there, which would be her face. And a lady came in and said, I want you to make a boot with my mother's kimonos. And I was like, oh my God, I've got it designed already, let me show you. And we just put in her mom's prints. And I said, I'm going to make mine while I'm making yours, because our samples usually are the last thing anyone lets us do, because there's actual customers. And then this was another just because we can. And I'm like, yeah, Raoul, now orange thread, now lighter orange, now a row of this, now a row of that. And he stares right at me through the glass, and he's looking like, she got one of these. She was running out of work today. But, yeah, they're all, like this one, they're all really labor intensive. This one's $17.70, which is actually really good, because it's still a lot of work. But everyone's welcome to grab some postcards or a sticker, and you have any other questions? I don't know.
The only other question I had, and it's probably hopefully a quick answer, is how do you get over the fear of turning your love for art into a business and not wanting to hate it?
You just start without noticing. Like, we have so many businesses, art businesses, that started at our farmer's market right in front of the building. It's crazy. I mean, from proper print shop. I mean, there's people just making custom stickers. There's people doing logo design. It's, you know, I mean, usually, like, if you do a booth at one of those things and you just bring everything you've ever loved that you've done, when people come look at it, they might even give you an idea of where to take it into what business, because someone's going to say, have you ever thought of doing baby onesies with that? You know, or someone's going to say, have you ever, you know, what about doing tabletop? What about doing this? I mean, my assistant Dee Dee she sculpts Day of the Dead dogs, and she does dog portraits. Then the cake lady came and wanted her to do fondant sculpting. You know, then, like, there's no telling what things evolve into. But if you just get out there, you'll get that idea.
So how big is your shop?
You know, populations and square footage are my husband's department. But it's like as long as from there to there. And then it's probably as wide as from there to there. And it's 2 floors. There's an entire basement. But the building was built in 1900. And the whole top floor, like original floor, it's really bumpy, cool wood floor. But it's pretty big. I think, what did they say? I think think altogether with the 2 floors, it's 20,000 square feet. Does that seem right? 2 square footage? I think it was something like that, like 22 or 23. Can't remember numbers.
How many employees do you have?
We were 14, but now we're 12. We had a pregnancy and and a retirement. But yeah, so we're constantly like, and I'm thinking about it now, like we need to cast, like, it's like a movie. It's like casting a movie. It is not just hiring who you need, because that does nothing for me. I need to know that this person's going to bring something good to the table, that, like, atmosphere-wise too, because I just can't handle the whole drone thing. It's not me. So we're seriously looking at what we need, and sort of, you know, in a very spacey, new age sort of way, if we put it out there, that person's going to come. It usually works, yes.
What do you think that El Paso should be doing more to expand and kind of with touristy things, since you came with the VIP box? What would you like to see being done?
Well,
more?
they're doing so much. I mean, there's 3 new hotels going in. I want to get more of the Convention and Visitors Bureau needs better ideas on sort of making sure that everybody gets everything. But they've got the bicycles, the trolleys going in, the marketplace is doing great. We've got so many great new restaurants. We need shopping downtown in the worst way. We have a favorite store, and I swear somebody should just, like, that has, what they should have done instead of, in my personal opinion, instead of the arena that they're trying to build that's not an arena, that's now a public whatever, they should have built the Juarez Marketplace for all the little teeny vendors with guacamole and quesadillas and, you know, right downtown, because that doesn't exist. So if we get that and we get some shopping, I think, you know, everything is really going to hit. But it's looking so much better. I mean, and we got Whole Foods now, and it's much prettier. It's really pulling together, and I think we're very proud of the fact that the whole era of the politicians that sort of went to lunch and didn't do much of anything else is gone, and the people that are actually, like, pushing for public arts. We have a wonderful new president of the Chamber of Commerce. We've got great museums and exhibits, and it's all happening. Those people are on the way out.
When you're starting your business, like, what is like one of the biggest hurdles that you have overcome?
Money, money, and money, and the fact that, you know, for me, taking like my life savings, and then the stock market went to hell. My whole 401k was just disappearing before my very eyes. I'm glad I pulled out enough to buy a car, because in New York you don't need one, but in Texas you do. Of course, it was a 1960 Rambler Super, but that was all I could afford. But it was that hurdle, but it was also doing it wisely. I'm still that way, because I've never had like a ton of money. I was never raised with a ton of money. I write down every day, or I used to, exactly how much money we made. And I would know the weekly net to crunch. And I know how much payroll is. Like right now, I know that payroll with payroll tax and everything is $12,000 to $14,000 every 2 weeks. So, and Elizabeth knows because she runs charges, but we always have that number in the back of our head. I think the second people stop having that number in the back of their head, they're in trouble. And like for me, I used to know per day how much I needed to, and in my own like bizarre, not number-oriented person logic, okay, so yesterday I only did this, which means I can carry that 300 extra I got to make tomorrow. And then by Friday, but it's so important when you're starting business to have those numbers in your head. And I mean, I consider myself lucky that I grew up with parents that always fought over money, because the last thing I ever want in my life is to owe anybody anything. And I know this Goldman Sachs thing, and they're going to try to, like, you know, you need a loan and you need to do this. That petrifies me more than anything. I'd rather, you know, live on tortillas and water than borrow money from somebody. But I know it's necessary, and I know that's the way businesses work. I was just too scared to do it. So I just, you know, I would buy leather every day for each boot, because I couldn't buy a roll. I'd buy 2 pieces. and I do it that way. But if you turn it into a game, if you turn anything into a game, it's fun. Because then when you hit that little bit of success, or you made your whatever for the week, I used to be most of the employees. It was 4 people when I started. Well, it was 1 when I, and then I took 1 guy back, and then I took 1 other guy back. Then I wanted someone on my team, as I called it. So I had 2 bootmakers, but I wanted someone else that was on my side, so that the fighting was even. But it's just, I think, that mentality. Because even if you do need to borrow from somebody to get things started, you got to own it and keep it all in your head.
Any other questions? Okay.
No.
If I can ask you guys just to sign up on our sign-up sheet, we'll get you guys emails and everything. And it's also nice to see who came today. So let's give Nevena and Elizabeth another big hand.
And grab anything except the boots. I don't see any one-legged people, so I
Awesome.